What's up, everyone? Welcome to the 2022 Harvey Awards. New York Comic-Con, Javits Center. All right, I'm going to be your host for the evening, Aris Quinones. Now, I'm going to be up front, fanboying out pretty hardcore right now. Like, this is dream come true. I've, been reading comic books since I was a kid. This is basically like, what, the Oscars comic books? So, celebrating that here, some of the best creators, absolutely amazing. And comic books, that's why, I learned how to read, right? Like, I didn't care about math, I didn't care about science, all that stuff. I just needed to know Batman and Superman. Mike Miller was like, yes he can. But as an adult, again, being at the Harvey Awards, they've been around since 1988. They've been in New York since 2017, still going strong. It's a testament to comic books in general. We have icons in here. I mean, Joe Quesada's here with us. Never met you, but I'd like to. Let's get a drink. We got Karen Berger is here, Mrs. Vertigo, as I like to call her. One of the best creators of comics working today, Jock, is here. And someone you may or may not have heard of, Neil Gaiman. Anyone? Neil Gaiman? The point is, we are here to celebrate comic books and some of the best people working in comic books. So let's get to it. Let's start the show. So kicking off the night, we have the most famous living cartoonist presenting Best Digital Book of the Year in years.
The most famous living cartoonist. 97% of you are going like, who the fuck? And there's like 3 Argentinians going like, yeah, Rizzo. Okay, so they asked the really young cartoonist to give the Digital Book of the Year award. The kid. Hey, sorry. Digital Cartoon Book of the Year, the nominees are Everything is Fine by Mike Burchell, Webtoon. I'm Fine, Just Understand by Andy Stevenson, www.imfine.com. imfine.com. Love Olympus by Rachel Smith, Webtoon. Love Everlasting by Tom King and Elsa Charretier, Everlasting Productions. And Snow Angels by Jeff Lemire and Jock, Comixology Originals. Woo! The winner is, I don't know. I'm not gonna fade down away this one. Lore Olympus by Rachel Smith. She's not here, I'm keeping the statue. Okay, but I get to keep the statue, yay! Thank you.
All right, let's keep this going. Presenting the first Hall of Fame statue tonight, curator for comics and cartoons at the Columbia University, we have Karen Green.
Hi there. Thanks to the Harvey Awards Committee for inviting me to make this introduction, and a warm welcome to Fred Buell, Marge's son, and his son Alexander. Marge Buell, born in 1904, gone almost 30 years now, already a published cartoonist in 1921 when she was still just a teenager, created one of the most memorable, and I dare say, one of the most powerful female characters in comics history. Marge Buell, you're asking yourselves. But Karen, wasn't it William Moulton Marston that created Wonder Woman? No, my friends, Marge Buell created little Lulu, a young woman with, thank you. Thank you, Ryan. A young woman with creativity, initiative, imagination, determination, and ironclad sense of self-worth, and who triumphed without the assistance of Amazon training or magic accessories. There's a reason that when 5 powerhouse women in comics banded together in 1994 to form an organization that would support women creators and fans, they named it Friends of Lulu, not Friends of Diana. Lulu debuted as a single-panel cartoon in the pages of the Saturday Evening Post in the mid-1930s, replacing the likewise wordless but somewhat less benignly nefarious Henry by Carl Anderson, and Buell drew her weekly until 1947. Lulu became an international star, and more practically, a merchandising star, and was, in the words of the jacket blurb on my library's copy of 1942's Laughs with Little Lulu, the reason why thousands of people open the Saturday Evening Post back end foremost. Only thousands? Lulu's perpetual battle was to prove that girls are just as smart, just as capable, just as daring as boys, if not more so. That girls are not simply a subservient sex. She undercut masculine superiority, outwitted exclusionary boys, rebelled against empty authority. She got her way, and she did it by her wits. John Stanley took over the character for comic books in 1948, and while Lulu was still a captivating character, Buell gave her an edge. Buell's Lulu was definitely a pre-comics code kind of girl. And she was very much a reflection of her creator, even resembling the young Marjorie. And, like Lulu, Marge was no fool. She retained the rights to Lulu, which was unusual. She licensed Lulu to Kleenex as their mascot. I'll leave it to Fred, however, to say more about his mother's qualities. I think both Marge and Lulu would be pleased that the Harvey Hall of Fame has inducted women nearly every year since the award's arrival at New York Comic Con. There's no girls allowed sign on this clubhouse. Roz Chast, Alison Bechdel, Marie Severin, Jill Thompson, Rumiko Takahashi. It is both right and fitting that Marge Buell should take her place in this cohort, proving still that the girls are just as capable as the boys. Thank you. Fred?
Thank you so much, Karen, for that lovely evocation of my mother and her work. And thanks to John Lind and the awards committee for this honor that they're bestowing on Mother tonight. I think probably one of the biggest honors she could have ever hoped to have. It's a very emotional moment for me. She was a wonderful mother, loved her very much, but more than that, she was a wonderful artist. She had her first cartoons, as said, published when she was 16, and in the following 15 years, she produced a huge volume of single-panel and multi-panel cartoons on different subjects that all had a very sharp, possibly satirical edge, but they were also warm and comedic. And I thought of her as a social critic of the human comedy, wherever she saw it, that reminded me sometimes of Jane Austen. Same perceptive, inquiring, objective, curious, interested, and amused eye. She made these cartoons in a chicken coop, in a redone chicken coop, on the family farm several hours outside of Philadelphia. It was a place, when she worked there, it had the ghosts of chicken pasts still in it. And after she finished working in that spot, the chickens moved back in, but they had the ghosts of Marge's studio to contend with. There were many things that made that area a very different place to grow up in than almost anywhere today. It was in a time when radio was just starting. There were many things that appeared after she began her work. TV and internet were wholly unimaginable. Telephones had operators making connections and neighbors listening in on party lines. The road she lived on was a dirt road with no streetlights, along which in the daytime to school she went to a local school and graduated with a high school degree. No further training after that, except a short thing I'll mention. She would drive to that school along the dirt road in a pony cart. And the pony cart it probably took about 15 minutes to get to school. Very reliable way of getting to school. However, if she was a little bit late, a train would come across the road in front of her. There was a railroad crossing, and the pony would freak out and run back to the stable, and Marge would have the day off from school. One wonders if some of those quick returns were staged rather than just an accident. Given her precocious talent, however, Marge was pushed to be a painter or a sculptor, but she withdrew immediately from art classes that she went to in Philadelphia because she was, as she said to me several times, I asked her I think about 3 or 4 times, why did you stop training to be a painter or a sculptor like you told me you had? And she looked at me and she said the same thing every time, because I was too free-spirited. Now, I think the word free spirit, freedom of spirit, is a very, very complicated one when it comes to Marge. She was living in a day when there were many, many things that threatened to take both freedom and spirit away from a young woman with a very sharp eye for the human comedy and a really subversive wit. But so cunning that little Lulu, the wiliness that little Lulu expressed, I think was some of the things that were endemic to my mother's character and that she learned in negotiating with the world. I don't know that she would have been even able to guess at the freedom, the explosion of freedom of spirit that the downstairs represents in Comic-Con. I think that might have been beyond their wildest dream. But I do know that she would have been very proud of the fact that she lived on after her death to influence generations of creative women. I think that would have meant a great deal to her in this evening and this award as much. Let me share just one more memory, or maybe 2 more memories. Freedom of spirit is really not easy. If anybody comes up to you and says, hey, free your spirit, well, freedom of spirit. No way you could do that. It's hard. And it's hard in a world of work. It's hard in a world of art, where especially humorous art, where you have to get it just absolutely right, or it means nothing. The visual comedy is so hard to get. Well, I'll give you one story about how hard it was at times for Mother. She was a young mother, had I think it was about a year-old boy, my brother, and she was working at home in far away, relatively far away place still, and he got pneumonia. We had a wonderful family doctor, country doctor, who came out to get him, and my father got in the car to take my brother to the hospital. She had a deadline. She met that deadline. She stayed at home drawing a funny cartoon with tears rolling down her face. That was the only time that she shared a story like that with me, and I remember it forever. I think I'll end with one last memory of her in New York City. Probably some of you know that she was invited to and went to Times Square to light up one of the early animated moving neon signs there, one that was located very close to where the Camel's sign blew out puffs of smoke across the walking passersby. And on the sign, in full color, Lulu pulled out Kleenex tissue after tissue, which Tubby used so vigorously that it sent his head sailing out into the dark. Now, in the photo, Mother has her hand on this huge dipole switch. And at least I remember the photo that way. I have a creative memory for something, don't trust me. But I really think she had the hand on the switch at that moment. And it was wintertime, they had coats on. She was surrounded by men in hats. That was a symbol to me. She was a commercial artist then. She was negotiating the commercial world. And it was a man's world again, like even the comics had been a man's world when she started. But she stayed composed. The men in hats were excited, but she stayed composed. And I read it this way, her spirit stayed freed from any dismay at turning on, in effect, a new world. The signs symbolize that. And free as well from even the trap of fame. May all beings be as free inside. And may I again thank John Lind and the committee for so honoring the mother who I am so lucky to have had. Thank you.
Give it up one more time. Before we get this going, I have to kind of mention the lighting in here. Okay, I understand that this is not award show lighting. I get it. This is con lighting, but this is New York Comic Con. Okay, Ellie, calling you out. Harvey's daughter, keeping his legacy going. Come on. All right, let's get into it. Okay, presenting the best adaptation for comic book / graphic novel, we have author of the #1 New York Times best-selling graphic novel and Tony Award-winning producer, Vivek Tiwari.
Thank you, everyone. What a great honor and joy it is to be back at the Harvey Awards stage, live and in person. I'm so proud to be here, and so proud to once again be giving out the award for Best Adaptation from a Comic or Graphic Novel. This is an award that is very near and dear to my heart because I work in multiple mediums. I'm not just a writer of comics and graphic novels, but I'm a producer of films, television, and Broadway musicals. I'm incredibly passionate about a good adaptation. And that is one that honors its creators and the original creative vision, and also honors the fans, whilst also introducing the work to a group of new fans, and maybe, just maybe, also showing those original fans something new and fresh that they might have missed in the heart of the original material. When an adaptation works, it's a beautiful thing. I'm also so proud that this award even exists. It's a pretty new award at the Harveys. It's only been around for a few years. And I think the reason is in large part because it hasn't been that long since adaptations have been, honestly, all that great. With a few notable exceptions, adaptations from comics or graphic novels have just not been that good. In large part because creators were usually not involved, not consulted. They often went forward without the creator's blessing, sometimes with their actual disgust. Oftentimes, the creative teams behind those adaptations were folks who were not fans and didn't respect the fans. And that has changed. More and more creators these days are holding on to their rights, being involved in their adaptations, picking those creative teams, sometimes actually writing on those projects. This is yet another area where our Hall of Fame inductee, Neil Gaiman, has really been a trailblazer for us. And yet another area where we owe you a debt of gratitude, Neil. Thank you. And if any of you don't believe me in all the things that I'm saying, you really just need to look at the nominees for tonight's Best Adaptation. The diversity of style, and content in these books is extraordinary. So enough for me, let me read them out. The nominees for Best Adaptation from a Comic Book or Graphic Novel are The Batman, directed by Matt Reeves, based on Batman, DC Comics. El Defo on Apple TV+, based on El Defo by C.C. Bell, Abrams Books. Heartstopper on Netflix, based on Heartstopper by Alice Oseman and Hachette Children's Group. Mind Management, the psychic espionage game, board game, based on Mind Management by Matt Kent of Dark Horse Comics. Miss Marvel on Disney+, based on Miss Marvel, Marvel Comics. Paper Girls on Amazon Prime, based on Paper Girls by Brian K. Vaughan and Cliff Chiang, Image Comics. Paris, 13th District, directed by Jacques Audiard, based on Amber Sweet, Hawaiian Getaway, and Killing and Dying by Adrian Tomine, drawn and quartered. Peacemaker on HBO Max, based on the Peacemaker DC Comics. Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings, directed by Destin Daniel Cretton, based on Shang-Chi at Marvel Comics. And the winner of the Best Adaptation from a Comic Book or Graphic Novel at the Harvey Awards goes to Miss Marvel on Disney+, based on Miss Marvel. The folks from Miss Marvel are not here, so how cool is this that I get to accept this award on their behalf? And those of you who know me will know that I never miss an opportunity to overstay my welcome. So I didn't write an acceptance speech because this is not my award to accept, but I'm going to say something anyway. As a person of Indian origin, when I watched the Miss Marvel episode about partition, my jaw literally dropped to the floor. There is not a brown person on the planet for whom partition isn't such a deeply cognizant and emotional event. And there are so many non-brown people on the planet who have no idea what partition is. And in one episode, all that changed. And it wasn't a biopic by Richard Attenborough. It was an adaptation of a comic book by Marvel and Disney. That is extraordinary. So I'm going to accept this award, hell yes I am, on behalf of Miss Marvel and brown people everywhere.
All right, next up we have an award that I'll be presenting, and this one's actually pretty cool. It's Best Children's or Young Adult Book. I have two young girls, I have a 5-year-old and a 2-year-old, so this one is really cool being a dad. I know there's probably lots of dads and moms in here, so anyone who has kids knows, especially these days, it's hard to find stuff for your kids. You're like, yeah, you can read that, I don't gotta watch over you. But the nominees for Best Children's or Young Adult Book is The Aquanaut by Dan Satat. Lightfall, Book 2, Shadow of the Bird by Tim Probert. Messy Roots, a graphic memoir of Rouhani's Americans by Laura Gao. Squire, Nadia Shamas and Sarah Alpaghi. Swim Team by Johnny Christmas. And the winner is Squire.
Thank you so much for everyone who rooted for Squire from the beginning, including our agent Charlie, my mother who's come from Boston just for this, not knowing whether we get it or not, Alex, our editor, and honestly, like every little kid who's just wanted to see themselves in their favorite story, we dedicated this book, honestly, to ourselves first when we wrote it. It was super self-indulgent, and we're glad that, it was indulgent for everybody else too.
I personally feel that the creation of Squire helped me figure out who I am as a person and who I am as a creator, and I could not be more thankful to undergo that with someone like Sarah. It was like between phone calls that just were like hours and hours long about like what is the geography of the mountain range, you know, down to
So what's your favorite anime?
yeah.
What do you want to draw? What do you want to do?
Yeah, exactly. So it was so amazing to have this be our kind of first like big project together. I think that we figured out who we are, and comics as a community saved my life, genuinely. And Sarah saved my life, Squire saved my life. Thank you all for everything, and Free Palestine.
All right, you guys liking the pace? We're doing good so far? Got some great awards? All right, let's keep this going yet again. All right, now presenting Best International Book, famous for his award-winning work on 100 Bullets with Brian Azzarello, we have Eduardo Rizzo.
Hello everyone, it's a pleasure to be here after a long time, really. It's an honor to be here. Okay, let's go. I have to be brief. Everyone wants to party, so let's go. I have to present the best international book. So, Ballad for Sophie by Felipe Melo and Juan Cavia, translated by Gabriela Suarez, Tall Chef Production. Castaway by Pablo Monforte and Laura Perez, translated by Silvia Perez Labayen, Dark Horse Comic. Sweet Paprika by Mirka Andolfo, Image Comic. This is How I Disappear by Miriam Mahler, translated by Alicia Jensen and Browning Haslam, Drown and Quarterly. The Waiting by Kemsuk Gendry Kim, very difficult to read, translated by Janet Hong, Drown and Quarterly. And Yellow Cap by Benoit Cohen and Christophe Chabutier, translated by Edward Gavin, IDW Publishing. And the award goes to Sweet Paprika by Mirka Adolfo, Image Comics.
I'll do so many English mistakes today. Very sorry. Kind of comics like manga, all stuff I like, and it's born really for fun. And I'm so happy it's gone this far. And I just want to say thank you to who worked with me on this comic at Arancia Studio. For example, the translator with Steve Orlando that did an amazing localization work, and also other part of the team like colorist Simon Tessuto, letterer Fabio Amelia, editor Cristian Posocco, Image Comics with Eric Stevenson, and the original Italian publisher Sun Comics. And also, I want to say thank you to my husband, Davide Caci, that it's there. Because without him, I would never do anything else. Because I'm always too much shy to show my work, and he's always by my side. Thank you, Davide. Thank you for this. I feel so honored, and really thank you very much.
time to give out another Hall of Fame award. It's really cool. So, presenting our next Hall of Fame award is comic artist, writer, editor, producer, and longtime editor-in-chief, the one and only Joe Quesada.
Hey guys, I don't mean to be antisocial. I had a little scratchy throat when I went back to the hotel room, so I just wanted to stay away in case I got the big COVID. I don't know. Or maybe it's just concrete. Who knows? So the Lifetime Achievement Award, of course, goes to Mr. Harvey. Mr. Harvey. It goes to Roy Thomas. So let's recount. I have an acceptance speech here from Roy that I'm going to do my best to recite, but let's recount some of Roy's achievements. Started at DC in 1965. Shortly after that, he joined Marvel. He was the very first editor-in-chief of Marvel after Stan Lee. He had a legendary run on Conan, literally going 115 issues with great artists like Barry Windsor-Smith, John Buscema, you name it. Also, wait for this, he's had a hand in co-creating, deep breath, Wolverine, Vision, Carol Danvers, Ultron, Ghost Rider, Morbius, Luke Cage, Adam Warlock, Havoc, Valkyrie, Werewolf by Night, Man-Thing, Spider-Man, Harry Potter. No, I'm kidding about those. I just want to see if you're paying attention. You're paying attention, okay. But also, in 1974, he won an Inkpot Award. And in 2011, he was inducted into the Will Eisner Hall of Fame. So, from Roy, here's Roy's speech. Hopefully I'll do it justice. So, it says right here, Roy Thomas acceptance speech, so it's got to be official. I want to thank the Harvey Awards for this Hall of Fame honor. A little over a decade ago, I was elected to the Will Eisner Hall of Fame. And tonight, I'm grateful and happy to be honored with the Harvey Award. Though I was never really an intimate of his, Harvey Kurtzman and I became off and on friends back in the early 70s after we appeared in a Canadian convention and shared an airplane flight. Once, when he saw a rude fan come up to me and say something snotty, and I gave back in kind, and that guy swiftly sulked away, he looked at me, shook his head, and said, in a way that clearly meant it was a compliment, "You don't suffer fools gladly, do you, Roy? I often wish I could do that myself." But Harvey Kurtzman didn't need to take lessons from anybody on the things that were important. He was one of the best writers, and in his own way, one of the best artists in the history of the comics field. And that would still be true if he'd been struck by lightning right after producing the EC War comics and the first 23 issues or so of Mad. And that's why I'm honored to accept this award. I have to thank my wife, Dan, who's been a strength and a light, as well as the love of my life since we first met 45 years ago, and really a whole bunch of people to whom I looked up to, and who made me aspire to want to do even a tiny fraction as much for comics as they had. Bill Everett, crusty and unmatchable. John Romita, one of the nicest and most talented guys in the business. John Buscema, who was a constant source of artistic awe and inspiration. Gil Kane, who helped shape so many of my views and who taught me so much. Julie Schwartz, Gardner Fox, and Otto Binder, each of whom took me under their wing in an individual but kind-hearted way. Neil Adams, who taught me that you can disagree with a colleague on just about everything and still respect each other. Jack Kirby, who in spite of christening me House Roy, I admire as one of the great geniuses of comics. And most of all, Stan Lee, who offered me a job 15 minutes after we met and changed my entire life forever. For the past 57 years, I've been proud and humbled to know and be influenced by these giants. And maybe after tonight, I'll feel just a little bit more worthy to have been in the company of all those of them for all these years. Thank you, Roy Thomas.
All right. right, gotta follow up that. Cool. But it's also with another Hall of Fame award. So I will be reading a speech for Gilbert Shelton. He cannot be here tonight, but he also gave a speech. I will be accepting it on his behalf. So, let's hope I don't screw this up. Here we go. I promise I can read. All right. I can't overstate how happy and proud I am to receive inclusion into the Harvey's Hall of Fame, to be lumped in with all those celebrities of the comics world. Growing up in Houston, Texas, with its 3 daily newspapers, I was exposed to a lot of daily comic strips. My favorite was Dick Tracy, with its grotesque cast of bad guys. I would copy Dick Tracy's face and soon could draw him from memory. My other favorite dailies were Little Orphan Annie by Harold Gray and Smilin' Jack by Zach Mosley. My parents wouldn't let me buy adventure comic books, but I love Carl Barks' Disney stuff and John Stanley's version of Little Lulu. I learned how to read from Walt Disney's comics and stories. Disney didn't let his artists sign their strips, but I could tell if the story was going to be funny, if it was lettered by Carl Barks. In 1952 arrived Harvey Kurtzman's Mad, which had a revolutionary effect on American humor. Later on, Kurtzman's Jungle Book and Jewel Pfeiffer's 666 were landmark books of the 50s. In the newspapers, you had the Peanuts. They were the funniest things going. My friends had staged Peanut stories, as well as Carl Barks ones, for our junior high school class or English classes. I've always wanted to be a cartoonist, and it is a dream come true to enter the pantheon of the greats with this Harvey Award. I had already written an acceptance speech in case such an opportunity ever arose, and it goes like this. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I have been described in the press as a man of few words. I guess it's true. Thank you, and good evening. All right, so we have a special video from someone you guys may or may not have heard of. We just got the video today, so bear with us with audio and this. But yeah, let's see if we can take a look.
Gilbert Shelton, I have not had the pleasure of shaking your hand in person, but I want to congratulate you on your award at the New York Comic Con this year. Well deserved, and it is a privilege and an honor to get to be Freeland and Franklin freak, and I do hope we get to hang out sometime. I get the feeling we're going to have some fun.
White man can't jump? Come on. All right, next up, presenting the award for Best Manga, we have manga journalist and podcaster from Publishers Weekly, Deb Aoki.
Oh my God, I'm too short for this podium. Bear with me. Also, I write for Publishers Weekly, but I'm a podcaster with Manga Splaining. Please listen. I'm entitled to that promo after Vivek's. All right. I'm here to present the award for Best Manga. And largely probably because I can pronounce all the Japanese names quite well. First up, a heartwarming tale of a young boy and his overprotective mother. We've got Blood on the Tracks by Shuzo Oshii, translated by Daniel Komen, published by Vertical Comics and Kodansha. Next up is Blue Lock, a not very heartwarming but action-packed story about a bunch of high school boys who are forced to compete in a no-holds-barred battle to be the best soccer striker in Japan. By Muneyuki Kaneshiro and Yusuke Nomura, translated by Nate Dare, published by Kodansha Comics. Cat Plus Gamer, a kind of heartwarming story about a hard-working office worker who, by day, is an office worker, by day is a hardcore gamer. She adopts a kitten and decides to put all the energy that she puts into being a really amazing gamer into being the best possible cat owner. It is by Wataru Nadatani, translated by Zach Davidson, and published by Dark Horse Comics. Next, heartwarming story about a boy, his chainsaw demon dog, and his quest to get laid. That is Chainsaw Man by Tatsuki Fujimoto, translated by Amanda Haley, published by Viz Media. Another not very heartwarming story, but still worth reading, is Red Flowers, a collection of short stories by the father of alternative manga, Yoshiharu Tsuge, translated by Ryan Holmberg, published by Drawn Quarterly. And Spy Family, or Spy X Family, depending how you like to read these things. A heartwarming, maybe action-packed, maybe fun story about a spy, his pretend wife who's an assassin, but they don't know that, and their adopted daughter who can read minds and knows what both of them are up to. Make sure you keep reading this book so you get to know the dog who can see the future. Spy Family is by Tatsuya Endo, translated by Casey Lowe, and published by Viz Media. And the winner is, I have no envelope to tear open. It is Chainsaw Man! Coming up, our pal Annie Nakahani from Shonen Jump will read her statement, I think. Unless you'd like to add to it, Annie, please go ahead.
Hey, sorry about that. Nice. Yeah, I ran past you, sorry about that. I'm Andy Nakatani from Viz Media, and we're very privileged to be the publishers of Chainsaw Man in English. So Fujimoto Sensei could not be here today, but just in case he won, he sent a little message over, and so I'll read that to you all. So, if Chainsaw Man receives this award too often, and here's a footnote from me, Chainsaw Man won the Harvey last year as well. So, if Chainsaw Man wins this award too often, I'm afraid it'll lower the prestige of the Harveys. But really, I'm so happy to receive this award, and now I want to make it a third. Thank you.
All right, we're on to our last Hall of Fame award, and presenting the next and last Hall of Fame award of the evening is famed executive editor of Vertigo Books and current head of Burger Books, Karen Berger.
That's a mask on the floor, if anybody's wondering what that is. I was staring at it all evening saying, what is that? Anyway, I don't know whose it is, but it's so great to see everybody. It's been a long time, and I am so thrilled and excited to present Neil Gaiman with this prestigious Harvey Kurtzman Hall of Fame award. Once upon a time in London, I met a shaggy-haired guy in a black leather jacket. His name was Neil Gaiman. I was on a scouting trip to find new British writers and artists, along with Jeanette Kahn, DC's visionary president and editor-in-chief, and the late, great Dick Giordano, who was head of editorial at the time. It's pretty wild thinking back to those days. It was 1987, and we had learned that England was filled with fresh talent, many of whom were relative newcomers to comics. Neil was one of those fresh faces, but unlike everyone else who got their break on 8-page anthology stories for 2000 AD, Neil seemed to come out of nowhere. He was a journalist, mostly covering music, but he told me that his first comics work was about to come out from Tiny Books. That was the graphic novel Violent Cases with Dave McKean. In that first meeting, Dave said absolutely nothing, by the way, but his art was amazing, and Neil never stopped talking. It's nuts to think that was only a year later that Neil's first DC project, Black Orchid, came out, and only 1 year after that, in November of 1988, The Sandman debuted. I don't know how we were able to do things so fast in those days. I don't know, but we did it. Neil did it. And even as a young writer, Neil showed so much talent as an innovative thinker and world builder, and he certainly had a way with words. But little did any of us know that 75 issues later, this horror comic set in the dark outskirts of the DC universe would transcend the medium and be held as a literary comics masterpiece. On Sandman, Neil found fertile ground for his unique talents. As the series progressed, he progressed as a writer, infusing his vast knowledge and love of history, literature, and different cultures and ways of life into a rich and glorious tapestry. Neil created a modern mythology of dreams and nightmares and everything in between. He created an unforgettable and diverse cast of characters and told resonant stories that underscore what makes us all human. Sandman paved the way for so much in the industry by showing the world that comics could be complex, literary, and really cool. It was the first multi-volume graphic novel series from a mainstream publisher, period. And it was the first graphic novel series to cross over to the wider bookstore market, introducing countless readers, new readers, to a wonderful medium. And it's still doing that today. Actually, it never stopped doing it. Neil is one of my closest and dearest friends in comics. We've been through a lot together, and there's so much that I admire about him. His integrity, his fearless creativity, his boundless imagination, his generosity, his kindness. He's a true match. Comics is so much richer because of Neil, and I can't wait to see what he does next in any medium. It is my great honor and privilege to be the person to present Neil with a Harvey Hall of Fame Award. Thank you.
This is wonderful. The first time I was ever given a Lifetime Achievement type award was about 20 years ago. And it felt really wrong in every possible way to look around and be 40 years old and be given one of these, you've made it now, sit down, shut up and go away awards. But I will take it now, I will. Partly because it's got Harvey on it. I met Harvey once, and in Dallas, I just checked, it was 1990, and I was introduced to him, and he gave a very short, heartfelt speech about what me and my generation were doing in comics, and I knew he had no idea who I was. And it didn't matter, because Harvey was telling me that I was doing it and that he was proud of us for making art and for making good comics. The last time I gave a speech at the Harveys was 2004, and people were busily predicting the death of comics in 2004. It was very much the are we all partying on the Titanic and giving each other awards, and I was convinced that there was a generation coming up who were going to make amazing comics that we couldn't dream of. And they did, and I feel right now like we're living in a golden age. I feel very honored to still be creating comics in a world that has the kind of people who are getting the Harvey Awards here today. Thank you so much. Thank you, committee. Thank you, Karen, for saying those lovely things. I love making stuff up. I'm glad that I'm still allowed to make stuff up. I'm so glad that when I asked Karen to let me do Sandman back in 1987, she said, yeah, okay. and neither of us knew how the world would be changed. But today I got ushered in to a Sandman activation, I believe it was called, by Audible, during which giant billowing clouds of smoke and projections and a person dressed as a fawn and at one person a lady covered with tiny mirror bits dancing in front of weird lights all happened. How the fuck did we get here? I have no idea, but I'm really glad we did. Thank you, everybody.
I speak for everyone when I say thank you, Neil. Thank you. All right, guys, this is the big one and the last award of the night, Book of the Year. Okay, so presenting the award for Book of the Year is acclaimed Batman illustrator and single-name creator, Jock.
No standing ovation? Hey everyone, how's it going? Can I just say, like, the other award shows need to take a leaf out of this book, because this is the last award. We've done it. We're done. Great. Okay, so it's my honor and privilege to present Book of the Year this year, and it's a long list, so bear with me. Ballad for Sophie by Felipe Melo and Juan Cavia, translated by Gabriela Soares from Top Shelf Productions. Crisis Zone by Simon Hanselman, Fantagraphics. Department of Truth, Volume 3, Free Country by James Tynan IV, Jorge Fornes, David Ramiro, John J. Pearson, Tyler Voss, Elsa Charitier and Alison Sampson from Image Comics. Far Sector by N.K. Jemisin and Jamal Campbell, DC Comics. The Good Asian, Volume 1 by Pornsack Piché-Choate and Alexandre Tafenge, Image Comics. The Many Deaths of Layla Starr by Ramvi, Felipe Andrade and Ines Amaro, Boom Studios, sorry. Lightfall, Book 2, Shadow of the Bird by Tim Probert, Harper Alley. Nice House on the Lake by James Tinian IV, Alvaro Martinez Bueno, DC Comics. Run Book 1 by John Lewis, Andrew Aiden, Al Fury, and Nate Howe, Abrams Books. And the last one is Sisters of the Mist by Martin Spage, Flying Icons. And it's my pleasure to announce that the winner is The Good Asian.
I don't think. It might just be nonsense from here, so yeah, because I'm really frazzled. I feel so early in my writing career to peak. All right, thank you to Image, thank you to Eric Stevenson for putting the book out, and then another thank you to everyone who works at Image, to Kat, to Jeff, to Matt, to Hillary, to Heather, to John, every single person who touched the book went above and beyond to do something a little bit extra. to get word of the book out. And, you know, it's a book about Asian American history, and no one's ever said, hey, put that in your book to get it to sell more copies. So I really appreciate that. Thank you to, right here, Alex and Will and Lee and Jeff and Grant and Dave and Erica, who all kind of worked on the book. Everyone here kind of knows the best part of doing this is working with people that you love, and then this is a nice cherry on top. And yeah, and again, also, and I think this is an ongoing theme about the books that you've seen win things tonight. Like I said, books about Asian American history, you get 1 month out of the year, and that's it, you know? And so I really gotta thank everyone here who voted for it and nominated it, because part of the reason why you only get 1 month of the year is nobody actually thinks it's gonna sell, and nobody actually thinks people will connect to it, and nobody actually thinks it will transcend the perspective of people talking about it. And the fact that this is here, and it's thank you, it means a lot.
For the words, so I'm here for the visual, so I just strike the pose. So I just want to say thank you to everybody, and thank you for the reception on our book and all the positive vibe that we received. Just thank you.
All right, we've reached the end. We've reached the end. Painless? Yeah, quick and painless. But before we wrap up, I have to thank our sponsors. We have Harper Alley and the Fabulous Fury Creek Brothers Animated Series on Tubi. But there's also more people to thank. There's a lot of people involved to get this going. You know, a lot of chaos, but good chaos, right? All came together in the end. So I want to thank Eden, the Repop team, Camilla, Lindsay, Chris, and team. We got to thank everyone from the committee. We got John Lynn, Chip Mosier, Nellie Kirksman. And that's going to bring the 2022 Harveys to an end. Please stay, drinks, herbs, all that good stuff. We'll see you next time.